lot of hype about AI and automations these days and all the ways it can help you run your business better. But I think a lot of people lose track of the whole point of adding these tools and systems and processes to your business to begin with, which is actually to enjoy the day-to-day of running your business. I'm a 2-time small business owner, and I have gone through every phase of the days that I'm jumping out of bed because I'm so excited about what I'm working on, and the days that I dread getting to my business because it's just not feeling like it used to. And ultimately, I think the arbiter of a good system or tool or process anywhere in our tech stack is that it actually makes it more enjoyable to do our work. So in today's video, I'm going to talk you through a specific resource that I built using AI in my business that actively makes it easier for me to do my work every day. We're going to talk through the behind the scenes of how I made this system work for me so that if you're curious, you can implement this for yourself. And if we haven't met, I'm Samantha. I'm an operations and systems consultant for service-based business owners that helps them build systems so that they can get back to the work that they actually enjoy. So before I built one for myself, I had seen a ton of conversation on the interwebs about a morning brief. And I had actually tried to build this once before, and it wasn't entirely successful because I was using Claude before a lot of the currently available MCPs were easy to use, and I just wasn't at the technical knowledge to be able to hook up the backend. So if you ever feel like the tech stuff is getting in your way of something working, just know, even for a systems nerd, sometimes things take a couple tries to really get working. But let's take a step back. This tool that I built using AI is the first thing I open when I sit down at my computer to work every morning. It's broken down into sections that give the basics of what I need to sit down in the morning to make sure I focus on what's most important for the day. And I think that's the larger context that has made this so impactful in the running of my business, because one of the things that I find many of us business owners find really overwhelming is just the deciding on what to focus on next. And because I spend some intentional time every week deciding on what's most important for the week, and I spend some intentional time one time building up this system, I get fresh reminders every day of what I said I needed to be focused on and how that ladders up to the tasks and the various projects that I'm working on, so I don't have to do that meta level strategy thinking every morning. I can just sit down, look at this brief, and decide what I need to do next. It also flags some of the, oh shit, did I forget about something issues of things being scheduled over each other, or if I had forgotten a deadline for some random niche thing in my personal life. Everything's surfaced in one place so that I am not wondering what things might be slipping through the cracks. So let's run through each section so you can see a little bit more about how this is set up and how it serves my business. All right, let's dive into this morning brief itself. So obviously I'm here on my Claude desktop app. This is where I run it because I want to take full advantage of cowork. I think that might be changing. I feel like I've seen an announcement in the last week that we might be able to get some cowork features on web. But up to this point, I have been running this on desktop, so that's how you're going to see it here. This is only one of the scheduled tasks that I have running, and I could do a whole nother video about lots of other scheduled tasks and skills that I have built, and if you're curious about that, definitely a comment down below. But I just check into my morning brief here on the sidebar, and it is scheduled so it runs before I even get up in the morning. And if there's a scenario where I have closed my computer such that it doesn't get connection, I get an error message. It totally happens sometimes. Just when I get to my computer in the morning, I can hit run on like the little error message and it resets it within a couple of minutes. And so it's no big deal one way or the other. So you can see here that it's been running pretty consistently every morning. And so by the time I get to my computer, which is not normally at 7 a.m., I have this morning brief completed. And while it gives me a little bit of summary in the chat, honestly, that is not the juice of where this is the most valuable. So let's check out today. I'm Thursday the 23rd, I'm filming this. It creates this HTML file every morning, and I would say most of the time I just interact with it within the Claude system, but you can also open it into Google Chrome. So I have opened up the one that is today's briefing for as we are talking through it, and I am going to have to blur some details here just for some confidentiality stuff, but I think you'll certainly get the idea. One of the things that makes this briefing so powerful is actually the sources that it pulls from. And so I think that's an important thing to understand. This tool has been a game changer for me getting started in the morning and me being clear on what are the things that I need to focus on most. But that work isn't being done every day. That's part of what makes it so powerful, is it's resurfacing work I've already done. So this first section, my weekly priorities, is a part of my weekly review skill. And I take the time every Friday to sort of capture key stats in my business. If you're curious which stats I capture, I talk about the ones that are most important to track in a different video. But on Friday, I do a little bit of stats capture and I evaluate sort of what were my goals for the week, what worked, what didn't work, and I set weekly priorities for the next week. So that populates this file here, so then it's the same Monday through Friday of the next week, reminding me what I set for myself is my goals for the week. Because that's one of the hardest parts about goal setting is like, unless you are resurfacing it to yourself, it's super easy to get distracted or forget what you said the goals are. And as a recovering overachiever, I also friggin' love a progress bar. And so I built an outreach tracker to give me this progress bar that resets every week. And it is pulling from my CRM to track like when I've been in contact with particular contacts or potential referral partners. And I set a goal for myself of doing 30 per week. You'll see this one is very behind because I'm in the early stages of wedding planning and things have just gotten in the way. But this is a reminder for me to sort of throughout the week try to check off a few, and it's populating automatically from the status updates in my CRM system. If you are seeing this and going, I don't have any of these systems set up, that's totally okay. There's probably a simplified version of one of these morning briefings that you could create for yourself, or the action of setting up the other systems then makes it really easy to just add on to the briefing over time. And if this is something that's just generally overwhelming to you and not how your brain works, definitely head to the link in our description down below to book a call, and let's talk about how Exhale might be able to take some of this off your plate, both in the designing and the execution of it, because that's what we love to do most. And then it takes me to Revenue Snapshot. I'm gonna have to blur a little bit of this, but this one is pulling from my finance tracking spreadsheet, which I reference a lot in the finance systems video that I built about how I think small business owners should, like, at their most baseline, have some finance systems set up. This one is super important for me to just see, like, how am I doing against my projections for the month? How's our progress? How many of conversations do I need to have if I need to, at this month I've already hit my goals, but if I needed to catch up, where would I need to be doing that? Then it gives me a summary of my calendar for the day and any important emails that need to be handled just like first thing in the morning. And this is super great because it'll flag to me if, like, for example, on today, I have a lot of meetings and so I don't have as many big work blocks. It flagged to me which work blocks I need to take advantage of for the tasks like filming this video that I needed today. Any email triage, which usually is not very much because I'm a psycho inbox zero girly, and then some tasks. And this will paint a very overwhelming picture of what the early stages of wedding planning are, so don't get too alarmed. But this one's great because it just like puts right to the top the things I could be working through. And again, the whole point of me having this briefing system is for me to get to the computer and not need to go click 7 places to figure out what I need to be working on. This reminds me exactly what are the things that are due today that need to be worked on. And again, this system is powerful because my task management system is built the way that I need it to, and I'm using it consistently. So this morning brief is pulling from valuable data sources and aggregating it in a way that makes it easy to use. But that is an important piece, that if you don't have the underlying systems set up, this sort of aggregation will only be so valuable as what you have the data pulling from. And then it summarizes life and personal things throughout the next week, because I am still relatively new to Austin and working on building my community there and in Nantucket where I am in the summer. And so I just always like to remind myself to make sure that I have just some plans with friends or investing in my community. And then I have this section for industry news where I have my briefing trained to go pull some relevant news from various sources. And one of the things that I really like about it is that it's built to not resurface the same topics over and over again. So it logs the articles or sort of subject matters that it has surfaced to me. And then there's a lag period where for the next week, it won't surface anything in the sort of same zone. And so that means that I get some kind of fresh concepts, even if it's just like a little news update. In this one, I don't know how little it is, but OpenAI launches a program, great, and then it's also flagging something about business coaching and more of a like data report here, and so it just does a good job of surfacing things just so that I'm keeping a little bit of a pulse of what's going on in the world. And then finally, it gives me a recommendation of today's focus. I will say I only get down this far about like 50% of the time, 30 to 50% of the time, because once I see the tasks list, I'm normally excited to kind of get going. But this is a reminder for me to sort of frame the day based on what it has seen, to make sure that I am making best use of the whole reason that I built this, which is not starting the day with like, oh, what do I need to focus on right now? There are a few things that you should think about if you're considering building your own morning brief. The first is where the important knowledge lives in your business, and can Claude actually get access to that? If there are valuable weekly reporting that happens in a file on your coworker's computer, there are going to be some things you need to navigate in order to be able to get Claude access to the information that it needs. And if something just lives in your brain or in a notebook, there's probably some preliminary systems that need to get built first so that Claude has a place that it can get this information without it having to come out of your brain. The second thing that you need to think about is, what are your goals both professionally and personally, and how can you make that more visible to yourself? So part of this is the technical side of how can you get Claude that information. If you aren't specifically clear on what you're working towards on a professional or personal basis, it's gonna be really hard to build this system to optimize for that. And that's more of a planning goal setting exercise than a Claude morning brief building exercise. And the third thing that's really important to have figured out is, what's the most helpful way for this information to be directed to you. If you can gamify a process for me where I can see how I'm working towards something over time, I am far more likely to do it, because I am a former perfectionist, overachiever, and I really like to see things complete. So on specific tasks that I know I need to hold myself accountable to, finding a numeric way that I can turn that into a progress bar is a really effective way to get myself to show up for those things. That may not be the case for you, and getting more specific about what motivates you to get things done can be an important part of building this morning brief in a way that's the most effective for you. If you are now excited to build a morning brief for yourself, definitely drop a hello in the comments down below. I'd love to support you. And if you would love to have something like this built, but you are not technical at all or don't know how to set this up, definitely head to our link in the description to book a call with Exhale about how we might be able to step in and build these sorts of things for you. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.